everybody. Welcome back to the series known as Master the NEC, sponsored by Electrical Code Academy Incorporated. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about a new section within the National Electrical Code. And it's the 2017 edition, which is ready for print. In fact, they might have printed it. It's already being shipped. I'm looking forward to my hard copy or softbound copy. But being a member of Code Making Panels, we have a PDF version that was given to us ahead of time so that we can have it. And so I've got a copy, and we're going to look at some of the changes, but in different episodes. On this episode, we're going to look at something that is quite significant. Now, in the change that we're going to look at today, it really is, it's in the code, but it was something that was pretty much figured on already, that if a manufacturer gave you a specific torque value that you needed to place on lugs or on screws, and even on fittings, there's a screw that actually has to be torqued in accordance with the NEMA FB 2.20 document, which gives values for the screw that has the fittings and things like that. So everything has some kind of torque value, and if the manufacturer calls for that value or calls for that torquing value on their device, whether it's a screw or lug or what have you, you got to follow it. And you have to have a calibrated torquing screwdriver or torquing wrench, whichever is applicable to your installation. So on today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about that and the fact that 110.3b of the National Electrical Code kind of says you have to install it in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions that are part of their listing. If the manufacturers, and they do, put a torquing requirement on their lugs or on their screws, whether it's on a device or whether it's in their literature that's part of their listing, or if it's done on the lugs from a lug manufacturer or somebody larger like Square D, Schneider, or Eaton, Cutler Hammer, or GE or Siemens or whatever, then they'll have lugs they use that go in their equipment, and that is going to have a value on it that you have to adhere to. So that was kind of always there. But recently in the 2017 code, it was kind of pushed by a friend of mine who works for another wire and cable manufacturer, who really took it upon herself as a mission to really educate people on the torquing requirements. Whether you're torquing onto copper or aluminum, you know, the key here is that you torque them right. Kind of pushed that agenda, and it got into the National Electrical Code. And so what are we talking about? Well, I happen to have with me today here a brand of a torquing screwdriver. And this just happens to be one brand. There's many of them out there. This one's actually made by Husky. No endorsement of Husky. Just happens to be Husky. Okay. Lower cost, really, not that much. I think it's like $60, $70. The torquing wrenches, probably a little more. I'm sure Husky probably makes one, or some of the other manufacturers make one. And the thing is, we're going to look at the National Electrical Code, and we're going to see that there was a significant change in how we apply this as far as inspectors go, because this is going to be tough for inspectors. Now, how are they going to know that the electrician has torqued it properly? Are they going to examine it? Are they going to check every termination? Most inspectors don't have the time for that. I mean, they can't go around and look at every termination and check it. Also, we want to make sure that they're set right, because when they're dealing with aluminum or copper conductors, we don't want to over torque it, we don't want to under torque it, and we don't want to go in and try to re-torque it with a different value than what's posted on the actual lug or equipment, and then we potentially can over torque it and damage it. All right? So we're going to look at the requirements in the 2017 NEC that now requires the torquing to take place, even though it really was covered under 110.3b in the manufacturer's requirements previously. Now it's actually in the code, and it's under 110.14. which is adequate because we're dealing with terminations and termination limitations. So it's a new item. It's a D. Okay, so we have 110.14 A, B, C, and now we have a D. So let's look at that right now. And of course, here you go. This is the 2017 National Electrical Code. Here you see off authentic document. And here's my document code. And just so I have those evil people out there who don't understand, let's zoom in here and you'll see that this document is registered for Paul Abernathy. Okay? Alright, so we're doing this for educational purposes only in order to look at certain aspects of the National Electrical Code for education only. We do not publish documents. We do not sell documents. We do not sell code books. We are simply using it for educational purposes. And for authenticity, we're using the language as it is appeared in the code in order to not have any potential improper wording of the actual code language. Okay? All right, so let's go to 110, and we'll go down to 110.14, which is right here. So we're dealing with 110.14 for electrical connections. And of course we got the terminals and we got splices and then we got the temperature limitations, basically dealing with the 60 degree and 75 degree ratings and what have you. Also the use of a conductor with a higher temperature rating like a 90 on this here, but you at the end of the day, due to these limitations, circuits rated 100 amperes or less or marked 14 through 1. You can use a higher temperature rated conductor, but you still at the end of the day, it can't exceed the rating of the 60 degree. Okay, we're not talking about that. All right, so now you get down to this one. Now here's that little N that's highlighted. That tells you that this right here, all this I've highlighted here is technically new section. Okay, the reason it's not highlighted is because the whole item here, D, is new. Okay, so that lets you know if they had highlighted it, then that would have said, look, this is a change from the 14, and that's not what it is. This is totally new. Okay? All right, so let's kind of zoom in here and look and see what it says. All right, so here's the new requirement. Item D, it says installation. It says where a tightening torque is indicated as a numeric value on equipment or in installation instructions provided by the manufacturer, a calibrated torquing tool or calibrated torque tool shall be used to achieve the indicated torque value unless the equipment manufacturer has provided installation instructions for alternative method of achieving the required torque. Okay, so this is all new, not all that. Wow, what's going on here? All this right here is new to the 2017 code. Okay, so when it says torquing tool, well, let's go on and do this here and come back to me. When it says a torquing tool, it can be a torquing wrench, a torquing screwdriver. We just so happen to have a torquing screwdriver with us today that we're going to look at. And here's what's going to happen. It says that it has to be calibrated. So I guess the first thing we have to determine, how is the inspector going to verify that this is taking place? Well, I guess as an inspector, when I first go onto a job site, and I know there's torquing or termination requirements, obviously there are, and whether it's devices or fittings or panels or lugs or any terminations, then I know there has to be a torquing requirement. And so you would have to provide me with documentation. First, show me your torquing tool, whatever you used. That's not your elbow and your hand. And then you would have to provide me with a certificate that shows me that it has been calibrated. Now, nothing in here says that it has to be a current calibrated certificate or anything like that. It's done once. I guess it doesn't matter whether you drop it, you beat it, or whatever. It doesn't say anything here about an annual calibrating. It doesn't say anything about it expired. The reason I say that is because, okay, so I've got this tool. I'm going to open this tool, and of course we got some instructions on how to use the tool. You can't see it. It's kind of washed out a little bit because of my light. There you go. There you go. Husky hand tool, gives you the model and everything good. Couple important things that it does say on the back, for example, is the obvious. Gosh, I can't even get that, the light. Sorry about that. Remember I told you in another, there you go, do not over torque. That's right. That's why we're using a torquing tool. I did say in another video we have new cameras on order. And it's going to, working out in a new studio format. It's going to get better than this. It's kind of choppy in some cases. So it's going to get better. Trust me. Subscribe because we got a lot of new videos coming. Okay. So in here, there's also a certificate. And I don't know if you can see the certificate because of the light. I'll tip it down. There you go. Here you see it's passed. It has a certificate number. It actually has a date on it. This one actually was tested on 8/25/2015, and it passed in accordance with ASTM B107.300, the 2010 edition. Okay, it basically has a plus or minus 6% of clockwise, and of course the tool has a clockwise, tells you how to torque, obviously righty tighty, lefty loosey. And basically it's a plus or minus 6% accuracy between 8-inch pounds and 40-inch pounds. Okay, got to be about what you got to accept here. So comes with this. As an inspector, probably one of the first things that I'm going to want to see is show me your torquing tool and show me your certificate. So that's why it comes with the tool. If you get a tool and it doesn't come with it, let me adjust this light a little bit, man, that's awful bright. If you get this tool and it doesn't come with it, then you need to contact the manufacturer and see if you can get one. So this has got it. Keep it. Don't lose it. All right, let's look at the tool a little bit. All right, so here's this one from Husky. Nothing says it has to be an expensive tool. Feels pretty well made. I don't have any problem with it. It does have a magnetic tip. You push up, you can pull the tip out. Incidentally, this one doesn't come with a tip, so if I had to shout out to Husky, I'd say, you know what, you're going to sell us a torquing screwdriver. You might want to put some bits in here. I'm just saying. Anyway, so I use this regular bit here. Goes in. It's in good. It's a Phillips head. And you have a little arrow that shows you, obviously, righty-tighty, but, going to the right. Now, how you actually set the torque values on here is if you look, there's a window, and I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to show it to you. There you see some values going from 5 all the way up to 40. And you basically pull up on this port here, and you basically turn it, and it moves a little lever down here, and I guess it works its way down. Right now I've got it down to, let's see here, it's in intervals, so I'm about 25 right there. I can screw it down a little more. I'm at, one more turn. Screw it back a little bit. It's got a little line in there you watch. And there it is. It's at 30. So once I'm at 30, I snap this back down, and it should be ready to break at 30 inch-pounds. So I think that when inspectors are on job sites and they're checking to make sure that they're going to be in conformity to 110.14d, they're not going to go around and check all the lugs, but you're at least going to make sure that they have their certificate, that they actually have a torquing screwdriver on site. If it still looks this pretty when you look at it on site, then you got to wonder, because you know what? Look at their regular screwdriver and see how eat up that is, and then wonder, are you really using it? I encourage you to use it. It's a regular screwdriver. It works just like a regular screwdriver. Get used to using it. Get your staff these. It doesn't have to be this brand. It can be any brand. I'm going to do a full review on this Husky. I'm going to put it to the test at my office and see what we get out of it, see how accurate it is. We have some devices that we can test some stuff there. But really, it's a screwdriver. It feels like a screwdriver. Work just like one. Again, torquing is so important. If you over torque something, you physically break down that conductor. If it's a stranded conductor and you over torque it, then you can break off some strands. You can crush the conductor. If it's aluminum or copper, you over torque it, you can do more damage to it than under torquing. Both can create arcs. So you really need to torque things properly. When you torque aluminum or copper, if you torque it right, then they are very similar. Okay, and of course people have read my articles on aluminum and copper. Virtually today, the aluminum 8000 series is virtually has the same movement for the thermal expansion and contraction as copper would have. Again, it's a lot to do with the lugs. I might do a video at some point about the myths and misconceptions of aluminum wire. You certainly can read my article on that. But at the end of the day, this is what it's required by the code. And like it says in the code. Now, if I go back to the code one more time. Let's go back. All right, if you look here, you know what? And let's go on and let's bring this thing up here. Let me go back one more. Here's what it says. Again, it says where a tightening torque is indicated as a numeric value on equipment or in installation instructions provided by the manufacturer. Okay, whether it's receptacles, switches, they're all going to have a certain value that you torque it down to. Again, fittings have a value that you torque down to in accordance with the NEMA FB 2.20 document for fittings. So they do also have it. You would think you wouldn't think that. I wouldn't have thought that, but I know for a fact that it does. So all of those things have torquing requirements, and this just allows you to. Oh, and incidentally, this one has what's called a quarter turn mark. Means you can actually see where it's a quarter turn to help you do some adjustments and all. Read the instructions as always in your torquing tool, but remember that it's got to be calibrated. It doesn't say that it has an ongoing calibration, okay? But you do have to show the original certificate that it has, so I wouldn't lose this at all. In fact, I might take this and laminate it or something. I don't know. I'm not going to lose it. But as an inspector, I'd go onto the job site and I would say, let me see your torquing screwdriver or your torquing wrench. If the electrician didn't have one under the 2014 code, I would probably continue with the inspection because I don't want to walk away and then come back and then find a violation and stop and come back, and then it's not good for the company. They want to know what they need to fix. Time is money. I don't want to have to make multiple visits as an inspector. My municipality doesn't have the time for that. Do a thorough inspection. Note everything that you see wrong so that the contractor can get an adequate list of what they need to correct. Okay. Indirectly, I'm a big believer that inspectors are instructors as well, whether they like it or not. Okay, you're teaching the code. And so if they don't have a torquing screwdriver or a torquing wrench and their code, they have adopted the 2017 code in their area, then that goes down as a problem under 110.14d, and they're going to have to show me that. Now, here's the weird part. If all of the terminals are already done, everything's already done, and they didn't have this, how do I know everything here is torqued properly? That is what the AHJs are going to have to deal with, because there are people that aren't going to know that they have these, and they're going to they're going to tighten everything down. Inspectors are going to come and say, do you have this? They're going to say, I don't. They're going to say, then how could you torque all of these fittings down? How could you torque all of these lugs, all these conductors? How are you going to verify it now? Well, we've been doing it fine for the last 100 years. Well, I'm like, yeah, well, indirectly, 110.3b kind of said you had to do what the manufacturer wanted as far as their instructions. So, to be honest with you, they put the torque values in their instructions on their equipment. In many cases, right on the device. I know they do the lugs. They put it right in the lugs, right on the panel cabinet. They'll have a little label there. So, how are you going to deal with that? So I am full support of torquing. I believe it is required. I have seen many wires that have been damaged due to over torquing it. Tighter is not always better. Okay? So at any rate, there you go. Get yourself a torquing screwdriver. That is a change in the 2017 National Electrical Code. You now have explicit requirements to have a calibrated torquing tool. In this case, a calibrated certificate shows that it passed. I have it with me on site. Look, it's got its own little case. Instructions, read it, learn how to use it. Torquing wrenches, same way. They'll have a little case to keep it. You really only need it when you're torquing lugs and things like that for the wrenches. These are going to be all your devices, all your screws. It's just a regular screwdriver. I'm sure other manufacturers make nice ones as well. They're fitting your hand nice. It's actually pretty nice. You know, feels pretty good. It's pretty heavy. Feels heavy duty, if you will. Okay. So anyway, there you go. Hopefully you learned something from this little video. In the 2017 National Electrical Code, you are going to have to provide a calibrated torquing tool, evidence to the inspector. How the inspectors are going to do this, the jury's out. Okay, you're going to have to do a random sampling. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe one or two of the lugs are set to be, let's say, 20 inch-pounds, and I go in there and I set this thing at right there. That's the first quarter turn. Each one moves it up per the stepped intervals because it has a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 on these here. And so once you got it set for 20 pounds, and I'm going to put it over onto the 0 because that zeroes it out at 20. That's 21, that's 22, that's 23, that's 24, and then you have a 25 mark here. I'm going to snap it down, and then I'm going to maybe do one. If it snaps at that value, then I'm like, okay, I trust that they did something. And again, AHJs are going to have to worry about how they're going to do this. You know, they're just going to have to figure that out. But it's required now in the 2017 National Electrical Code. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of it. Don't forget to visit our website at masterthenec.com or electricalcodeacademy.com.net or .org. Same thing for the masterthenec.com.net.org. Go to our Twitter and join us at @MasterTheNEC. Go to our Facebook, just search for Master the NEC. Again, go on our message board and join our forum. We have a link on there to join the forum. You can ask questions. Also, our YouTube videos, subscribe to the videos. I'd like to see that subscription go up. We get a lot of traffic, people watching the videos, but they don't subscribe. Come on, man, subscribe. Help a brother out. So anyway, God bless and thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.